An insider has just dropped an absolute bombshell on the Bruins' top target in this offseason, and this is going to surprise a lot of people. Mitch Marner is being targeted by the Boston Bruins, according to reports, at a staggering price. We're going to be covering it all here in this video, talking about why or why not it makes sense for the Boston Bruins here. Now, very quickly before we jump into the video, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We noticed that just over 75% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. So without any further ado, let's get into this absolute insane report. And we've been expecting to see a lot of these reports come out now over the next few weeks as the playoffs get underway and the Bruins are eliminated. We're going to be looking at the top targets here over the next coming weeks as the Bruins offseason is quickly approaching us with only a few games left. But Mitch Marner has been the topic of conversation surrounding the NHL, and the Boston Bruins has been a team that's been thrown out there. And now looking at the most recent reports, starting off here with this one, according to Zoro Sekon, I believe that's his name, I do apologize if that's wrong, of NHL trade rumors, the Boston Bruins could be the team he lands with. Sekon reported that the Bruins are very interested and could give him $14 million AAV. The Bruins aren't just interested, they're all in, Sekon wrote. They're talking a potential $14 million AAV mega deal to steal Marner from Toronto. Now, it's no surprise to anybody. The Bruins are going to be heavy in this offseason, wherever it is. The draft, free agency, with a rebuild on the way, and a rebuild that they want to make as quick as possible. With these moves that we made at the deadline, what's coming next, the Bruins have a great opportunity here with around $27 million. We're going to get to the specifics here in a few moments, but with that money, they can make a lot of things happen, exceed expectations on this rebuild, and be able to turn this into a half-a-year rebuild from what we've seen the beginning of last season. And we know that this year has been a terrible, terrible failure for the Bruins, and that's been no surprise to anybody since the beginning of the season. But from who we have coming up, from the deals made at this deadline from Don Sweeney, surprising so many people, being able to acquire who he did in trades for Brad Marchand, Brandon Carlo, Charlie Coyle, a lot of young prospects coming up, Will Zellers being really the top right now that a lot of people are interested. May not be here next season, but the season after is looking a lot more likely. Fabian Lysell, Georgi Merkulov, Matt Poitras, Fraser Minton, these young guys coming up soon. The Bruins lineup is going to look very different next year, but when we're looking at some free agent acquisitions, Mitch Marner is at the top of the list surrounding the NHL. Now, I do have one more quote before we jump into our in-depth things here from Zoro Sekon. This isn't just about adding talent. It's about sending a thunderous message. The Bruins are back, and they're coming for the cup, and if Marner slips away, Plan B is just as explosive. Brock Besser, Nikolai Ehlers, and even a reunion with Brad Marchand, if the cap gods allow it, one way or another, Boston is hunting for a game changer. And this should not be any surprise to anybody watching this video, any Bruins fans, knowing the way the this season went, knowing the way the trade deadline went, we knew that they were going to be in here for a big offseason, a big spending offseason. And now, with the $27 million around what we're looking at, they have a lot of money to spend. They have a lot of money to allocate. We know there's a few people that are going to need to be re-signed. Mason Lohrei. We're also going to be looking at Morgan Geekie. A few others that are also possibly going to be returning to this Boston Bruins lineup. But they're also not going to be afraid to let some people walk. And I think that's the more important thing as well when it does come out of this offseason, is what they're going to do to change this lineup to get back to where we were supposed to be at the beginning of this year. Now, when we're looking at the cap projections for the Boston Bruins, you can see right now, we're sitting at around 700. And of course, that's not really going to matter for the remainder of the season. When it does come down to it, we're going to send a lot of people down to the AHL for those Calder Cup playoffs with the Providence Bruins. But next season, the 25-26 season, the Bruins are going to have $27 million to be able to spend. Now, that's going to be quite a bit for what they're going to be looking for a big splash, and also adding some more pieces, adding some free agents, adding some re-signs in Morgan Geekie in this case. They're going to have to allocate that and keep it smart for what they want to do. They're not going to be able to go spend willy-nilly. They're going to have to keep what they want to do in mind when they're going to be doing this. Now, and we're looking at, in this case as well, Mitch Marner, the Toronto Maple Leafs are sitting at $27 million also. Nearly the exact amount the Bruins are, but they have a lot of stuff different to do than the Boston Bruins. The Bruins are going to be going out here trying to go and get, whether it is going to be a number one center, whether it's going to be another star winger that they can use alongside David Pastrnak, whether it is going to be on the left side or having a back-to-back, absolute talent on the wing. The Bruins are looking at a lot of options here, and I think that Mitch Marner is one that a lot of fans are going to be mixed opinions on. Now, of course, we've seen a lot of stuff from him in the past, a lot of, I don't want to say childish activities on the ice, but things that you don't really want to see necessarily on your team. But when we're looking at Mitch Marner as a player, we saw in the Four Nations face-off this year that he is a big reason the Leafs are where they are. And a lot of people think it may be Austin Matthews for this Toronto Maple Leafs team, but it looks a lot more like this season that Mitch Marner has been the real reason that the Leafs are as good as they are. And putting that into perspective with the Boston Bruins, knowing what he's been able to do and knowing what he can do for any team that he's on, and this year having a stellar season, on pace for a career year, currently sitting at 94 points in 75 games, he showed why he is one of the bigger talents in the NHL, and one that a lot of teams are really going to be putting a big bid on in this year's free agency. Now, of course, he may not even hit free agency. That's the thing that we're still going to have to consider, still going to have to look at, but from what we've been seeing lately with the Boston Bruins, their spending habits, or what their planning spending habits are, the Toronto Maple Leafs, what they're going to do, and if Mitch Marner decides to walk, he can still decline a contract from this Toronto Maple Leafs team. And I think this will all going to be dictated by what's going to happen for them in the playoffs. We know that their playoff success has not been great over the past few years, thanks a lot to us. But going back to their history as well, we don't want to see a Mitch Marner on this team. We want to see him get eliminated in the first round, have and want to leave this team. I think there's a pretty good chance of that if history continues to repeat itself. Now, when we're looking at the Bruins offseason projections, we do see Morgan Geekie, Jacob Lauko, Marat Huznatinov, Cole Koepke, John Beecher, Henry Jokiharju, Mason Lohrei, and Parker Wotherspoon, all free agents right now on the NHL team. I see Jokiharju being re-signed, Lohrei, Hutzi, Morgan Geekie. I can also see Lauko, Koepke, and Beecher as well, but I think the first couple are going to be the big guys that we see. You see a blaring hole there on the right side as well. Morgan Geekie is obviously going to be playing on the left side in the first line when it does come down to it, but two winger spots that could come down the first and second line are empty. That is a phenomenal spot for a guy like Mitch Marner, who on a career year is going to continue that, and even being a guy who was in a very big spotlight in Toronto, a lot bigger than where you want to be, and especially Mitch Marner, who likes to play his game, likes to play it a certain way, he's going to be criticized no matter what in Toronto. I think Boston is definitely a spot where that thing's going to continue, but is not as much, and you're not going to receive the hate you do from this organization. So if this is anything, I think this is a pitch to Mitch Marner and the Boston Bruins to go out, contact each other, get into a little relationship here at the beginning of this offseason, and continue to go here and push towards free agency, because I see two gaps I would really like to see. Now, we're looking at Mitch Marner here on the daily faceoff pending UFAs, and you see the projections on the right side, 8 by 12.6, which is significantly lower than what the Boston Bruins are reportedly going to be willing to offer. Now, I think that this is going to be his projection, and this is going to be what we're really floating at around the beginning, and what the Leafs may offer him, maybe even a bit less. But if reports are saying this, and if this insider is correct, the Bruins are going to be willing to spend over $1.5 million more to go out for that push and get Mitch Marner to steal him away from the Boston Bruins. Now, we also spoke about Brock Besser as well, an option there that could be a very interesting one for the Boston Bruins when it does come down to being able to go out, sign some other players except for Mitch Marner, and really bolster this team, and as I mentioned, to get a very quick rebuild here. This could be a very interesting option when it does come down to it, when we do look at who the Bruins are going to be going out and getting in free agency, because I think it's almost a guaranteed at this point. The Bruins are going to be trying to go out and get a top talent in this year and add him onto this either first or second line to get this team out of the rut that they're currently in. And when we're looking at Mitch Marner, in this case, sitting just behind David Pastrnak on the points leaders, being able to put these two players on one team could be an absolute weapon. And I do want to see this. I do think we have a very good chance of seeing something like this happen. But one final update before we finish this video off. The Bruins are back down into the 4th overall pick, something that we've hopefully are going to stick in. The Philadelphia Flyers have a game in hand. They could go out and hopefully go out and win this, but the Bruins lost to the Buffalo Sabres there last night. This is one that we need to stay in here, and I've been adamant in the videos. We need to stay at the 4th overall pick. Anywhere in the top 4, you're going to have a successful player, because we know how tight the race is up until almost that 12th overall in the pick. And of course, the lottery, a better chance of the 1st overall pick is better for the Boston Bruins. So let me know what you think about this Mitch Marner deal. I'm very interested to see what your guys' thoughts are. Do you think the Bruins are going to go target him? And what do you think about $14 million? There's no doubt in my mind that's quite a bit of money. Is it an overpay? I think it's a pretty good chance it is, but to get a talent like that, put him with David Pastrnak, work him in this lineup, I think they could be in a real good position. So let me know what you think. That's all I got for this video, though. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well, but I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.